LinkedIn's Social Selling Index, or SSI, has been on everyone's radars lately, and social selling itself is getting more and more popular. This is where you use social media to get new leads and deepen your relationship, so ultimately you can build trust and earn new customers and grow your business. And I've got something that's going to supercharge your business growth, but first, let's look at how to interpret your SSI score, which grades you on how well you social sell on LinkedIn. And I did a lot of deep research into this. And let's talk about how to actually use this information to reach your goals. And we need to start with the big mistake that most people make when they're interpreting their LinkedIn SSI score, which is really not their fault because unfortunately there's a lot of really bad advice out there on how to interpret your score. And the best way to illustrate this is with this blue bar, which represents your success on LinkedIn. So imagine you're attracting your dream clients, you're growing your business, and let's say it takes you 3 hours a week at most on LinkedIn to achieve it, which from my experience is realistic. But what if someone told you, no, that's not enough success? In fact, you could achieve so much more if you're willing to put in, say, 10 hours a week and spend an extra $1,199.88 per year. Now, you might be thinking, Brooke, aren't those blue bars the same height? Why would I spend an extra 7 hours per week and $1,199.88 per year to achieve the same result? Well, technically there is a difference. The right side is exactly 0.5% taller. And I know this because I created this graph and I have OCD. Anyway, this is exactly what's wrong with most advice out there about SSI. Most advice out there will tell you to go for a certain SSI score and it costs you more time, it costs you money, and it hardly makes an actual difference in your overall LinkedIn success. Any client who's worked with me knows that a LinkedIn strategy only works if it fits within your budget and your life. So keep this in the back of our minds as we're looking at the LinkedIn SSI score sheet. And when I explain the components and all the nuances of the score to you, you're going to wonder if SSI really stands for seriously suspect information. So let's get to your SSI score. Go to linkedin.com/sales/SSI. But in case LinkedIn ever changes this URL, you can always Google LinkedIn SSI score and then click on the search result from linkedin.com about SSI, scroll down slightly, and click on Get Your SSI Score. So my score is 70 out of 100, which sounds horrible, right? In American schools, that's a C-. I mean, I might as well do nothing with my life. I'll just stay under a weighted blanket and binge watch productivity hacks that I'll never use. But if I have a C-, why is my SSI in the top 1%, not only in my network, which is everyone I'm connected to, but also in my industry, which is marketing and advertising, which is a pretty competitive industry on LinkedIn. And just this week, I saw a couple of my client scores in the high 60s, and they're also in the top 1%. And if my clients and I are in the top 1%, why does most advice out there suggest that top 1% isn't good enough? And in fact, LinkedIn kind of makes it look that way too. So I am going to show you how to improve your score, but you have to know that the SSI score is kind of rigged. If you don't have a LinkedIn Sales Navigator subscription, which I choose not to have, a 70 is close to the highest you can get these days. The free version of LinkedIn keeps me busy enough and keeps my business thriving enough without all the bells and whistles of Sales Navigator. Plus, whenever I bring on a new client and they happen to already have Sales Navigator, about 90-95% of the time, they're not using it because using Sales Navigator takes extra time. We can achieve great results without shelling out $99 a month or spending extra time. Let's put that time and money into some other part of your marketing. Now, my score used to be as high as 70, 78. And what's funny is that I do way more social selling now than I did back then when I had a higher score. Ergo, LinkedIn is making it harder and harder for you to have a decent score if you don't shell out that $99 a month. They're trying to shame us for users like we're wearing cargo pants at a TEDx talk. Now, if you do have Sales Navigator, the highest you can expect to be is somewhere in the 80s. So this is where this and this come together. There are lots of people out there who will say your score is not respectable and you're not worth your salt unless you're at least 75 or 80. But I can assure you that going from the top 1% to the top 0.5% is not worth it. And really, let's say you're in the top 10%. Give yourself a pat on the back. You're on the right track. Okay, so now let's talk about how to improve your score within reason, and let's look at how your score is calculated. It's broken down into 4 key components that are 25 points each. Establish your professional brand, find the right people, engage with insights, and build relationships. So let's first unpack establish your professional brand. And LinkedIn gives us a tiny little clue here where it says to complete your profile with the customer in mind, become a thought leader by publishing meaningful posts. But on this channel, tiny clues aren't enough. So I went on a mission. I excavated the digital catacombs of LinkedIn menus like a marketing archaeologist, fueled by a double espresso and a dream. And here's what I found. LinkedIn says it's looking for a complete profile. And when it comes to LinkedIn profiles, fill it all out and make sure as much as possible speaks to your audience's needs. Also, multimedia on your profile. For instance, you can include a featured section with links or images or documents or presentations, or you can add multimedia in other profile sections like experience or education. They also want you to have a cover photo. That's the banner image up here, and make sure it conveys what you actually do. Also, endorsements. That's how many people endorse you for your skills listed right here. You could ask for endorsements or endorse other people in the hopes that they endorse you back, but really, there's so many better things you can do with your time on LinkedIn. It's not worth an extra half a point on your SSI score. LinkedIn also says it's looking for long form posts and followers from posts. Now, these are exactly LinkedIn's words. And when I looked elsewhere on LinkedIn, it said it was looking specifically at articles. Articles can be super helpful for your longer form content. And I work with my clients on optimizing their articles for the biggest impact. So long story short, try producing some articles if you aren't already. Now let's look at find the right people. And this is where things start to get rigged, like a pie eating contest judged by someone on keto. LinkedIn here talks about identifying better prospects in less time using efficient search and research tools. Hint, hint, Sales Navigator. And when you dig even more, LinkedIn even says it takes into account people searches in Sales Navigator, lead builder and advanced people searches in Sales Navigator, profile views in Sales Navigator, leads saved in Sales Navigator, accounts saved in Sales Navigator. So there's only so high your score is going to be in the find the right people section if you don't use Sales Navigator. And side note, when you're on the SSI page and scroll down a bit, LinkedIn says, we can help you find the right decision makers and shorten your sales cycle with Sales Navigator. How handy that they advertise Sales Navigator right on the SSI page. Coincidence? I think not. One last thing about this part of your score. LinkedIn also says that it looks at your days active on LinkedIn, which is fair. You need to be actively networking to meet new people and attract your dream clients and grow your business. Next is engage with insights, i.e. discover and share conversation-worthy updates to create and grow relationships. And here's what I found that LinkedIn is specifically looking for. Engagements given and received. This is insanely important. And if you're a regular to this channel, you know I've talked about this till I'm blue in the face. Yes, of course you want to create content that earns a lot of engagement, but you need to be proactive and go out there and engage with other people's posts too. Give yourself daily or weekly goals for the number of comments you're going to do on other people's posts. LinkedIn's also looking at your engagements received on long form posts, in other words, articles. LinkedIn also says it's looking for shares, i.e. reposts, although LinkedIn doesn't make it clear if they're talking about other people reposting your content or you reposting other people's content, but obviously both are good. They're also looking at your messages sent and your in-mail response rate. And you can only have in-mail if you have a premium product like Sales Navigator. LinkedIn's also looking at the groups you've joined and your engagement within groups. But I will say in most LinkedIn groups, there's a lot of talking and not that much listening. In general, I would not waste time joining groups just to slightly bump up my SSI score. My time and your time is better spent engaging with people on LinkedIn who actually are willing to have a conversation with you. And I typically find that outside of groups. LinkedIn's also looking at accounts you've saved. That's a Sales Navigator thing. And research views. And that's also the research you're doing on Sales Navigator. Now let's go to build relationships, where LinkedIn wants you to strengthen your network by finding and establishing trust with decision makers. And here's specifically what they're looking for. How many connections you have. Also, how many connections you have that are at least vice president level, which honestly I think is a little snobby. And not everyone has to connect with VPs and above to achieve their personal goals on LinkedIn. How many internal connections you have, in other words, how many coworkers of yours you're connected to, and also the acceptance rate for the connection requests you've sent. Now, this is important. If at least 50% of the connection requests you're putting out there are being accepted, you're doing fine. If it's lower, there could be a variety of reasons, and I could create a whole video just on this one topic, but it's everything from how you're reaching out to these people to did you warm them up before you reached out to them to is your profile set up in a way that people would want to connect? Some things for you to seriously think about. Now, taken all together, the average SSI score is somewhere between 30 to 40. And really, the most important thing that you can look at on your score sheet is not here, but here. how you rank in your industry. You want to stay top of mind with your target audience, so when they need your products or services, they think of you, not your competitor. And there's so many ways to become a LinkedIn rockstar. And how are you going to apply it to your unique industry or your audience or your goals? That's why I offer a 1-hour one-on-one consultation by Zoom, and I'd love to meet you and get to know you. We're going to talk about how to tackle your specific challenges on LinkedIn so you can grow your following and your engagement and grow your business. And I'm all about practical next steps that make sense for you. And you can get started by clicking on this link in the top right corner. Keep in mind that I do a lot of research before our call, so we make the most of our time together. So in the intake form, be sure to share with me your questions and your challenges and include any links you want me to look at beforehand. So to book your session, click on this link. Thank you so much, and I can't wait to meet you.